I'm Dr. Randine Lewis, and I'm going to be giving an upcoming talk on the evaluation of laboratory analysis. While this might sound very dry and dull and boring, it's something that I've been teaching at a doctoral level, integrative doctoral level, where the intention is not to memorize a bunch of labs and understand what the norms are or the normal ranges and to learn more Western medicine, but to take some pretty complex and potentially confusing numbers out of the obscure lab analysis data and put them back into the medicine that we understand and know and love. So I've always been quite concerned about some of the doctoral levels where the practitioner gets, they start out with a mind full of Chinese medicine, and then in order to compete with their, doctoral level counterparts, they try to learn more Western medicine. And what I've heard and what I've witnessed is it makes weaker practitioners. It doesn't make us stronger in the medicine. It just makes us know more data. And then we kind of lose the focus on the potency of Chinese medicine. So when I developed this particular course, what I wanted to do was to continue to keep it well-versed and well-rooted in our medicine, in Chinese medicine. So for example, when we're looking at how to evaluate a complete blood count, we have to understand first, before we start going into numbers and what they mean, we do a little Chinese physiology. Where does blood come from? What's involved in making blood? And so we look at the importance of the spleen and the stomach and start then breaking down the components and putting them into the Chinese medical physiology so that we start developing a richness and a depth of understanding of what these mean, rather than memorizing their Western counterparts. And I think the more we do that, the less confused we become as practitioners. And so we go through a hematologic pattern looking at the blood components that a patient might get done with a complete blood count. And so we look at the components of the red blood cells and platelets and white blood cells and how they show up at different levels of Wei Qi, what they mean. Once we know what they mean and we already have the connections within our medicine, now they start to make sense. We're like, oh, of course, this just makes sense. So it's actually, it makes you a wiser practitioner, not a more scattered practitioner. And I will sacrifice different lab analyses in order to make sure that we have a real complete understanding of how to utilize what it is that we're doing rather than memorizing more. When we move on to the metabolic panel, we're going to look at things like diabetes markers and cholesterol markers. And once again, we have to go back to, what constitutes fat metabolism, what constitutes the pancreatic abnormalities in Chinese medicine, rather than what should our hemoglobin A1C be, and then how would we give nutritional supplements and acupuncture to treat that? That's very superficial. We're not trying to add more difficulty to branch level treatments, but we're trying to bring it back, rooting it into the understanding that we already have. Then when we move on to the electrolyte panel and the endocrine panel, we're going to be looking at the Jianye. So we're going to be looking at the body fluids. What are they? What does Chinese medicine already say about it? And then how can we make sense of labs? So I'm hoping to give a richer and vaster understanding by providing these labs. So don't let it be intimidating. My intention is to make it more friendly, more user-friendly, so that you can begin to feel confident and well versed because you're already strong in this medicine. And because you're already strong in this medicine, you'll be able to communicate better to your patients that know what their labs are, to the other biomedical doctors, that you'll be able to, one of the things that I've been able to do is to, once you have an understanding of what the Western biomedical markers are, you can say something like, yeah, Chinese medicine understands that and views it similarly. However, the way that we look at it is, and then you can kind of weave in the wisdom of our medicine using the same language and not feeling like you're lesser than. But often what happens is you kind of feel like, hey, this made a lot of sense to them because I know what I'm talking about. While I know enough of their medicine to use the language, I know enough of my medicine to convey its wisdom.
And Randine, you're known as an expert when it comes to reproductive care, fertility. Some people have asked if you're going to be covering some of the sex hormones and the testing that they do for fertility and bringing that into the energetics of Chinese medicine. Is that part of this course as well?
Yes, and I can't help but focus on that because that's my love, that's my comfort level. I can play in that realm a lot easier. It takes me a little more effort to start looking at, some of the other hematologic markers. It's like, I have to think for those. But so I will put a heavier focus on especially endocrinology and hormones. And while we can't cover them all, in fact, I might not be able to cover in, our 2 days together what I normally cover in a lot more hours than we're giving this. I really want to give it the emphasis so that the practitioner understands how to do this process rather than I don't care about how much you can memorize and yeah, we covered this. If we cover, just like in we've talked about this before, the more you understand about your specialty, be it fertility or gynecology or whatever, the more you understand medicine as a whole. Same is true with this. The more that I understand endocrine markers and what goes behind them according to what our medicine says, the more I can apply that to any other laboratory analysis.
Randine, thank you very much for putting this course together. It's streaming live November 21st and 22nd, 2020. It's approved for 11 hours of continuing education, and the course is called A View of Laboratory Analysis Through the Lens of Chinese Medicine, and that's going to be available through healthyseminars.com, so check that out. A View of Laboratory Analysis Through the Lens of Chinese Medicine with Dr. Randine Lewis.
Thanks, Lauren.